So I wanted to go on from that into, I wanted to ask you just a couple of worm-related questions. So, because one of my friends asked me to ask one of them to you,
go for it.
and that was, if you cut a worm in half, does it create two worms?
No, it does not.
It doesn't create two worms?
No, I think that's what the industry told us, to make us not feel bad when the tractors are going through, ploughing through the land. No, so, but they can regenerate themselves. So the band around the worm, the saddle, that's when you know that a worm is an adult. But if you cut your worm too close to the saddle, it'll die.
Yeah.
But if a little bit gets snipped off the end, it can grow back. They can regenerate themselves.
Okay, so they're pretty resilient.
So which is pretty special. They're still very special, but they just can't become two. They won't become two worms.
Yeah.
That's a big lie that everyone's been told. So no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, not good, but important to know in case you're trying to rapidly increase your worm population and actually really not helping at all.
But they can double the population every 60 days.
Oh wow.
So we can really turn this around. Like the potential for regeneration is enormous.
Yeah.
So it needs to get on this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then I was going to ask, what types of worms are there?
So yes, we don't put. There's 3 types of worms: epigeic, which are surface dwelling; endogeic, they're middle; and anesic, which are bottom. So top, middle, and bottom. And we never put garden worms in the worm farm, so they're deep burrowing anesic worms. So we use epigeic composting worms for worm farming, and they they thrive in fresh rotting waste. So you find them in your compost bin. We use tiger worms, which are Senia fetida. So that's the breed that we use. But use special composting worms for your compost.
Okay, but if we were looking at kind of, okay, we wouldn't be necessarily seeding worms across agricultural land.
No.
Because obviously we're just putting the compost out there, I suppose. But I was going to ask about worms breaking out into the wild. Is there a problem in some places of kind of invasive worms and things?
Somewhere in America, I think it was in Minnesota, there was a fisherman that was just dropping the worms that they hadn't used in fishing on the floor into the forest, and it just decimated the forest because the worms were just overpopulating and eating the waste. So you do have to be, you do have to be careful.
Yeah. So for example, worms that we're using here, we obviously shouldn't be using in other countries.
No.
So we shouldn't be posting worms.
No, not internationally. No. That's not.
Just making sure in case, I think I better cover some of these things just in case people get ideas. Go, that'd be a nice present for my mum in Russia.
No. But yeah, if you're making a worm farm, a DIY worm farm, don't use garden worms. Don't dig the garden worms up. They'll die.
Okay.
They like to burrow deep. These are surface-dwelling worms.
Okay.
So yeah, that's an important question. And they breathe through their skin, so they can eat cooked food, but don't put oily food in your worm
so no
farm.
oily food.
Yeah, and citrus.
Interesting. Or citrus.
Because they don't like acidic environments.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you're supposed to keep that out, and citrus fruit and onion. Not too much onion. But nobody really throws a whole onion away anyway. You can put the peel, you can put the skin in, but just don't throw a whole onion in your worm farm.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. I was going to ask about, so going back to this agricultural worm thing, so one of the things is we've basically wiped out worms in agricultural fields. So are there any projects involved in reintroducing worms to kind of some of these systems? Or is it kind of something that's not really worried about? Because if they are able to reproduce so quickly, they'll kind of, if we improve the soil, they should just, and our farming practice, they should just recolonise?
I used to get quite a few requests, people wanting to buy worms off me to put on their land to improve it. Well, that's not going to work.
Really
you have to improve the soil first, and the worms will come.
Okay.
And the worms will just die. There's no life.
Yeah, there's no organic matter for them to actually eat, especially these compost worms,
there's no microorganisms. There's no life there for them to eat, because that's what they're eating. So we can't cure the problem by dumping worms everywhere. We need to start healing it and introducing microorganisms.
Yeah.